Welcome to the Stillhouse Reflections, a quiet space to step outside the noise and consider what's real, what's yours, and what freedom can mean in everyday life. Hey folks, it's Della. Welcome back to the Stillhouse Reflections. I hope you're doing well. So last time we talked all about approval, and this time I want to talk about acceptance versus belonging. So most of us go for belonging. That's typically how we function. Belonging is conditional, and it's always based on performance. It's based on what you think people want. It has a level, belonging and approval kind of go together, right? In order to belong to a group, you need their approval. So belonging is very conditional. If you wear the wrong clothes, you don't belong anymore. If you don't look a certain way, you don't belong. If you don't act a certain way, you don't belong. If you don't believe in the same religion, you don't belong, right? Belonging is very conditional. Acceptance, true acceptance, is unconditional. It's unconditional. There's no strings. If you wear weird clothes, I still accept you. If you have different political beliefs than I do, I still accept you. If you have a strange color of hair, I still accept you. If you have tattoos, I still accept you. If you have different beliefs than I do, I still accept you. If you have different morality than me, I still accept you. I'm not looking for you to belong. I'm not looking for you to fit in nicely. I'm going for acceptance, which is unconditionally based. And we're not looking for a checklist of things, of ideas or conditions that have to be met before acceptance can be found. So right now we live in a system, in a world, based on belonging. We haven't found acceptance yet. We're not even close. We live in a world based entirely on belonging. You have to have the same political beliefs as I do. You have to have the same morality as I do. You have to practice the same religion as me. We have to speak the same language. You have to look like me, meaning your skin color or your culture has to match mine. We're looking for belonging. Belonging. If you are Republican, Democrats don't belong. If you are a Democrat, Republicans don't belong. If you are left, the right doesn't belong. And if you are right, the left doesn't belong. That is belonging. Acceptance is the Democrat can be part of over here with the Republicans and be accepted. Because their acceptance is not conditional on them believing the same things. The person on the right can join the group on the left, even though their political beliefs are different, because there is acceptance. I don't have to agree with you to accept you. As a society, we use belonging as currency. Belonging creates conformity, because it's conditional. So belonging is a sense of conformity. You have to conform to my way of being. Otherwise, you don't belong, you don't fit. That's why we have the division we do in society, by the way. That's why we have this cultural divide. It's not just that there are two separate realities. It's not just that there are differing political views. It's not just that there are differing versions of morality. It's that we're looking for conformity and sameness because we equate belonging with sameness. We keep looking for people to convert. And it doesn't work like that. We've made politics a moral ideology. The left and right are now moral ideologies. No longer is it just political. No longer is it just this policy and that policy. Now it's a moral debate. It's a moral ideology. The left has their own somewhat secular moral debate, and the right has their religious moral debate. It's just two versions of morality colliding with each other. And because we're doing that now, because we're having a moral argument, the lack of acceptance is even stronger. Now your morals and values aren't the same as mine, so you don't belong and I don't accept, and now you have a split. Because now we've decided that people who believe something that we don't are bad, because that's what morality creates. That's what belonging looks like. That's what it looks like. That's how it plays. And that's a divide that we'll never get past. Politics has turned into a moral debate, religious versus secular morality. Generally. Those are pretty broad spectrums, but generally it's secular versus religious. And those two things will never meet. They'll never meet. That's why we can't talk to each other anymore. Because it's impossible. Because one has decided that the other is... They lose respect for each other because the morality doesn't match. Morality as belonging is really entertaining to watch. Because it requires sameness and conformity. Don't have it. And you're not going to get it because you're not going to tell religious people that they can't believe what they want to believe. And you're not going to tell the secular left that they should follow the religious morality. So you're not going to get it. So there's no acceptance. And in order to belong, you have to convert. So you have to accept one or the other. You have to go one way or the other. So you either have to take on the religious morality or take on the secular morality and drop the religion. That's not going to happen either. There's your divide. And it's just because politics has become a moral debate instead of being left as politics. Politics was never meant to be a moral debate. And if we narrow it down now and we come back into looking at family life, how many of you feel like the black sheep in your family? You don't belong. My entire family has dark brown hair. This is my natural color. As a child, I was blonde. My hair was straight, bone straight. And you can see it has a kink to it now. I didn't look like my family. I had blue eyes, everybody else had brown. And I didn't conform. I tried to conform. I didn't do so well. It's kind of like a drunk driver. And so what happened? I didn't belong. I still don't belong. Right? I didn't belong. And for a lot of years, I didn't have acceptance either. Right? Belonging is more of a feeling. It's a personal sort of, I don't feel like I fit in kind of thing, right? That's what that's reflecting, is that I need to feel like I fit in. And when I don't feel like I fit in, I want to try to be the same, right? That's why the kids try to wear, the latest styles, the latest fashions, the latest brands, whatever it is. That's why kids want to do that, is because it's that need for belonging. It's the need to fit in. That's why that happens. So what would it look like if we dropped the need to fit in? What would it look like if we dropped that sort of pain and moved to acceptance? And we built society, we built life around acceptance. It would mean we'd let each other off the hook. I don't need you to look like me, wear the same clothes as me. I don't need you to believe the same things as me. I don't need you to agree with me. We don't have to have the same morals, and I'm not going to disrespect you because we don't agree on morality. I'm not going to project my morality onto you. We're not going to do any of that. Belonging comes from an internal need for validation outside. Belonging comes from approval. Belonging and approval, which I talked about last time, kind of go together. The need for approval is based on a sense of wanting to belong. And both belonging and approval are conditional. So they aren't true. But when you free yourself to make choices, and you simply accept self, and it is not conditional based on the outside world, based on what's happening out there or what anybody else thinks, when you do that, acceptance frees you. The same way as removing the need for approval frees you. Because acceptance really is just about self. It really doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. It is almost entirely about self. It means you've cleaned up the internal need to fit in, to belong. You've cleaned up the need for external approval. And you found acceptance of yourself. And when you find acceptance of yourself, then it's easier to find acceptance of other people. When you learn how to do that, you let other people off the hook. You no longer need them to be a certain way in order for you to be okay. You're no longer threatened by somebody who has a different belief than you do. And that matters. As the divide grows in our society, that matters. The acceptance or the lack of acceptance comes from a fear of what doing the opposite creates. And the fear is what breeds misinformation and distrust. The fear is what makes you unfollow somebody when you realize their political beliefs don't match yours. But if you look around, and you actually just watch people be people, and you realize that the majority are really just trying to do the best they can with what they have. They care about their families and their friends. They're trying to survive. And when you realize that, and you watch them, even once you figure out what their political beliefs are, they're not bad. They're not bad people. But we absolutely have this thing these days where we figure out somebody is on one side or the other, and it happens to be the opposite of us, and we immediately unfollow, unfriend, block. And that division is only getting bigger. But what it's showing is that the need for moral cohesion and belonging is breaking. That old foundation, that old dynamic, that old idea is crumbling. It no longer works. It's broken. It doesn't work anymore. And so what I am starting to talk about these days is my vision of a world that is post-manufactured scarcity, post-morality. Not that morality can't exist, but that morality goes back to being what it is, which is an individual guidance system or belief system that is not projected onto other people at all and not required as a means of cohesion or acceptance, belonging, where shared morality is no longer the foundation for society, where societies are simply based on shared resources, where survival is no longer on the table, where we move to a world where food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, and education are all provided freely to everybody, regardless of income level. You work based on fulfillment and a desire to do something with your life and be a productive human being, because that's what you will naturally do when given the choice. And then you have radical freedom outside of that to make any choice and do anything you want, and we stop trying to protect people from each other. And that last line is probably the scariest thing I've said all day, right? Out of all the things that I've offered you, the scariest thing that I can say is the radical freedom to make any choice you want, where we stop protecting people from each other. Why is that scary? Because it means people are going to make choices that we don't like. And people might make choices to harm each other. And we're still going to have to accept them. We're not going to make it belonging. We're not going to make a conditional sense of belonging. We're going to create acceptance. Acceptance of people as they are. Acceptance of people's choices. Acceptance of people's ideas, no matter how radical or different they may be. And what you'll notice, the two things that I've paired, full support, food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, and education. That's a far left extreme view. And the right, radical freedom to make any choice you want. And do whatever you want without fear of external punishment. Without fear of external manufactured punishment. Basic cause and effect kick in. If this, then that. But it's natural consequences. If you steal the chocolate bar from the grocery store, that grocery store owner may not allow you back in. That is natural cause and effect. You do that enough times, you may have to travel to a different state to buy food. Natural cause and effect. That is what radical freedom looks like without external consequences. But to do that, we have to get past this idea that we need people to belong and fit in, that we need cohesion and sameness. We have to look for acceptance. We have to accept people as they are and where they are, and stop trying to fix or change everybody. Stop trying to create cohesion. Stop being afraid of alternative viewpoints. Stop being afraid of what the other side is doing. Stop blocking every time we run into somebody that doesn't have the same moral belief that we do. We have to create acceptance. Because here's the reality. Democracy, the world as we know it right now, democratic society, capitalist democratic society, is going to implode. We have two choices. We're either going to go, now I'm watching a little bit of this from Canada, right? The US is going to go to dictatorship. That's the slide. Into dictatorship over here. Or you can just reimagine a new society and not fall into fascist dictatorship. Both are meaning change because unfortunately you're not going to be able to stay in the same capitalist democracy you've kept. People proved they don't really want more of the same. That's been proven. They don't really want more of the same. They want radical change. There's a lot of misinformation and confusion around what radical change looks like. I don't think it ends the way they think it will necessarily with a guy like Trump. And I don't think most of them were necessarily going for dictatorship. But that's where you're headed. And all I'm doing is saying there's a better way. There's a better way. Acceptance will offer more radical freedom. Acceptance will offer more radical freedom. When you stop trying to control what other people are doing. And try to eradicate or evict when they don't do what you want, because that's belonging and that doesn't work. You don't need belonging to create a sense of identity or a sense of self. You don't need belonging to feel like you are okay. You just need to decide, accept yourself. You need to figure out how to accept yourself as you are. Get okay with who you are. And once you offer yourself radical self-acceptance, leaving other people alone is easy. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching and listening, everybody, and I will talk to you on the next episode of Stillhouse Reflections. Talk to you then. Bye for now. Thanks for spending this time with me. May these reflections stay with you and keep opening new ways of seeing until we meet again at the Stillhouse.